Is apartment investing real? Can you get scammed? You see all these posts on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Hey, let's pull everyone's money together and let's buy this apartment complex, this retail shopping mall. But do they actually make money? And how can you actually find someone who's trustworthy and done it before? We're going to jump into all of that coming up next. Ooh, look at that. And welcome to the show, Ash and Jason. How you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good. Thanks for having us again, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. For those who don't know, our group here, we are Invest Capital, and we've actually all four of us meet on Zoom and online all the time. And this is kind of the way that we do it now. But we've actually never all four of us been in person in one location. So virtual friends becoming real friends, and then talking about real estate and making money. Just for a quick background on our group here. Individually, we own a number of short-term rentals and long-term rentals throughout the country, and together we banded and partnered with Link Multifamily to then syndicate a apartment complex in Mesquite, Texas, which Ash is going to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive into our subject today, which is, can you trust apartment syndicators? So Ash, what are we talking about?
Yeah, Josh. So, what we're going to talk about, we're going to give you some fun foundational information about what is a multifamily syndication, and what are like the typical roles in a syndication. Then we will move into like the meaty part of it, which will be tips for finding the right syndicator. So, if you're looking to invest or become a syndicator, what are some of the things that characteristics that you should have in order to be a good syndicator and to invest into the right syndicator? And then at the end, we'll have some Q&A if anybody has any questions. So I guess we'll just jump into it. So multifamily syndication. So starting with the basics, syndication in real estate, I guess in its most basic form, it refers to a pooling of resources. So a multifamily syndication is essentially when a group of investors pool their money together to buy a apartment complex or an apartment building. And so this is beneficial because rather than you having to do all the legwork yourself and finding and managing a rental property on your own, you invest with a syndication where there's a group of people doing spreading the workload out among different people. So, an example of this, as Josh mentioned earlier, is the Ventura Apartments. That was our first syndication. We closed on 111 units late last year, so end of 2022, in Mesquite, Texas, which is east of Dallas. And so right now we are working through the asset management piece of it. So operating the property, renovations, and things like that. So we'll just kind of move over to what are the different roles within a syndication as it relates to um, the two types of partners. So there's the general partner, which would be an example of us, where we are the ones who take an active role in acquiring the deal and managing the asset. And we're essentially executing the business plan to ensure investors are getting their projected returns. And then there's the limited partner. They are the folks who are investing their money into this hard asset and not having to put the time and effort into managing the asset themselves. So the common example in a multifamily syndication is flying a plane. So the general partner is typically the pilot. So they're the ones who are operating the plane, making sure the plane is working and getting it safely to its destination. And then the limited partners are the passengers, where they pay money to be on this journey, and then at the end of the destination, they receive a return on their investment. So, moving to just kind of a little bit more deeper into general partner roles or GP roles. There's typically three or four different types of roles, and this can vary among the GP groups. So one person can carry multiple roles, so it doesn't have to be one person for each type of role. And so the typical ones are deal finder. So you need somebody who can go and seek deals. So working with brokers, analyzing deals, networking with folks to find those deals. And then there is the equity raiser. So the person who raises equity or funding for the deal. So there's equity and there's debt. So you typically have a lender who provides debt, and then you you essentially bring in equity from these investors to put money down to leverage in order to buy the larger property. Um, and then there is the loan qualifier. So this is the person who essentially brings a few different things. So they qualify for the loan. And so that means that they should have some net worth equal to or more than the loan amount. And then they should have liquidity. So the group should have at least 10% of the loan post close, meaning that after closing on the deal, there should be 10% of liquid cash um, at the end of the after we close. And so, and then the final kind of piece to the loan qualifier or the key principle is that they should have multifamily experience in a similar asset. So that helps you qualify for that loan. And then finally, the last role here is the asset manager. So this is the after you close on the deal, then you're managing the property, doing renovations, ensuring that occupancy stays positive, and working through the business plan. So those are the typical four roles, and as I mentioned, each person can wear multiple hats, and the GP group tends to vary among how many people are within that group. So, uh, Jason, Josh, do you have anything else that you wanted to add regarding that?
I mean, I will add our other business partner, Vinci, onto the stream. So he made it too. Welcome back to the show, Vinci.
Yes. Hey, everybody. Good to see you all.
Yeah, and then well, just adding to what Ash already said, like just to connect it with our group. So for us, we are covering majority of those roles. So there's four of us, and then we each take on some, roles in that in those GP roles. So for example, we are managing some of the renovations, so we're managing the assets. We did not find the deal, but we had someone else in our team get the deal for us. We also were not the ones who qualified for the loan. We also had someone else in our team qualify for the loan. So within GP partnerships, there are different people that will cover those roles, but those are the basic ones that's required or that's needed to have like a successful syndication.
Yeah, I might add on this one is that with all the different roles, I think what's fun with our Ventura deal being our first deal is that we are still learning kind of where we fit into that groove best. Because I've working together now for the last a little more than 6 months because we were doing some due diligence before that. But each of us has a very different skill set and figuring out where we can best fit into the pie. And then, of course, too, what other gaps do we need to fill, whether it be our own skill sets or our own team members. But I think it's just it's a fun moving puzzle figuring out the GP roles. Let me go back into our slide deck over here. So if you have any questions too, if you're live, thank you for joining us live. Let us know in the comments below and we'll bring them up at the end of the show. But our next section now is going to be spearheaded by Jason, and you're going to talk about what you're going to be looking for. So what are you looking for in a GP, Jason?
Awesome. Yeah. So, when you're watching these reels on Instagram and you see all these people talking about their deals and, some of them are raising money, how do you actually know that they're not just going to run off with your money, right? So you need to vet them. And these are like three main things that I look for when I'm checking a general partnership or a deal. So one is the track record. So you always want to check the experience of the GP, right? So you need to see have they done a full cycle, and a full cycle is when a syndication has acquired the property, executed their business plan, and either sold or refinanced the property. How many of those have they done? So if they did a lot of those, then they have a lot of experience, so they can probably execute on the deal that they're raising for. The other thing is investment strategy. So the main thing that you want to ask with this is, does this deal make sense for me, right? So for example, if the GP partnership is buying a multifamily and their business plan is to put some units as midterm rentals, well, are there demand for midterm rentals for that multifamily? Are they near a hospital? Another example is if someone buys a multifamily and their business plan is to just increase the rent after renovating. Well, is there room for that increase? Are there any comps that supports the higher rate after you do the renovation? So if it makes sense, then it's probably a good deal. Also, it needs to make sense for you as well because you have your own goals and it needs to align with the GP's goals. So if your goal is to diversify, then returns, solid returns may be okay for you as long as the investment is not very risky. So you also have to evaluate your own risks and if it makes sense, to get into that deal. And then the third thing is for me, communication. So how often does the GP communicate with you? And what kind of like do they only tell you the good things about the deal or do they also tell you about the bad things? So for me, when a GP is raising money and then they only tell you about the good things and kind of like evade the questions about risk and potential losses, then that's kind of like a red flag for me. So I would be wary about people who just talks about the gains and the returns and not really tell you about the potential risk. So those are my main things. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more. Can you guys think of any other ones you want to add? What other things do you guys look for in a GP?
I'll add one thing is as far as the track record. So they may have done multiple deals through full cycle, but I also want look for somebody who's done it in a downturn. So like, have they gone through an economic downturn, and how did they fare in those type of situations? Because that's kind of what we're experiencing now, where interest rates are rising, and how are they navigating through that, especially if they have a floating rate loan on that investment. So um, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to add, I forgot to mention for the track record, and I know that there are definitely like newer syndicators and operators out there, right? So those people probably don't have that much experience. So what you can look for is, are they partnering up with someone that has experience? And then you look at that person's experience. Have they gone through like a downturn? Have they gone through many cycles? So there's a lot of things to compensate for the experience, obviously. So if that newer GP has advisors or KPs that had a lot of experience, then I would say it's a pretty safe investment.
Yeah, if we talk about other red flags, I think there's going back to your alignment point, Jason. For me, hard sells really kind of just creep me out, to be honest. So if a syndicator is there saying you have to invest today, it's only open for 24 hours. Yeah, there could be some truth to that where yes, they have to close at a certain date. But if the hard sell ends up being like the sleazy car salesman sale, then it almost speaks to a little bit of desperation to me to where, well, why aren't they able to get, to meet their quota or their fundraise goal fast enough? And so that's just something that makes me pause a little bit and say, is this really the right move? And I also just, on the communication point, I want to feel like I can have dinner with them. I know that may not be like the best investment strategy. And again, we're just sharing our experiences. And for me, I want to be able to sit down for dinner and see them as a friend because, we're building well together. And that's probably the most fun part is to build well together as friends.
Yeah,
Vince, what
totally.
about you? Are you looking for anything in particular?
Yeah, I think one of the things I also look for, and I think one of you may have highlighted earlier, but um, I want to make sure that is this GP also willing to invest in their own deal, or are they investing in their own deal? It's a red flag for me if I find a GP who wouldn't even invest in their own deal or doesn't have skin in the game. So I think those are, good signs and good questions to ask any GP or syndicator that you're looking to invest with.
Sweet. Well, before we jump in, if you are watching us live, thank you. Let us know below what you look for, and we can bring the comments on screen. Ash, any last thoughts?
I think the only last thought would be going along the lines of my last thought just left.
Well, we will get back to it, just like how I'll get back to questions. So the next part on this is, where are you actually finding trustworthy sponsors or general partners? For us, for example, we partnered with Tony Lin, who actually, I think he's in this picture right here, right on this side, right here, maybe. I think he's right here. There he is. So he partnered with Tony on the Ventura deal. And obviously, if you're listening to this to audio only, this is more excuse for you to watch us on YouTube so you can see the picture too. But there's a lot of different ways. Ash met him on Bigger Pockets. And I think, to be honest, much like most business relationships, just met him over the course of, I would say, almost 2 years, and him just teaching you without asking for anything. And then he also invited to teach me and the rest of this group here as well, which was, again, the opposite of the hard sell. And in terms of where else you can find it, and so we host events, much like either whether it be online or in person, just like this. That way you can get a sense of, is this person really doing these deals? And then you can also hopefully get a chance to talk to them and really get the good news and the bad news story. Because as Jason was saying earlier, if they're only sharing the good news, it's really how they react to problems that really sells me on a syndicator. Content, of course, I think is king right now. So whether you find someone on Instagram Reels or on TikTok or on LinkedIn, once you start consuming that content, you end up with it's a weird relationship it's a parasocial relationship, meaning you almost feel like you know the person that you're following on the phone without you even knowing it. Like, oh man, like I know exactly his favorite restaurant is this, or she always gets this kind of coffee. And you have that relationship. And that relationship is actually fully, I wouldn't say like it'd be more reinforced with live events like this. So if you are watching this live, or you watch your favorite content creator, investor, syndicator live, I think it's the best way to really get to know somebody, because you can't fake it on a live. It is very easy on a short video clip or on a blog post to find someone else's content and just copy it. But if someone is on the cusp answering questions, all of a sudden, hey, this person really does know what they're talking about, and they can specifically answer my questions. And so that, for me, is a reason why I start to trust more people, because of their ability to speak online. What about you all? Where else have you guys found either trustworthy sponsors or business partners?
Pretty much at all the Invest Capital events. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been there. No, but yeah, isn't it amazing to be able to meet someone at an event, and at a real estate meetup actually, and just connect with someone immediately in that space. Like I find it much easier to find people and find maybe your next partner when you're at a focused local real estate meetup. I found partners through coworkers at my work, and for my W-2, it has nothing to do with real estate, but finding people there, just talking about what I'm doing and kind of mentioning it to a few of my coworkers gets kind of like the ball rolling. And next thing a couple of them have actually partnered up with us on some deals, and with me personally as well, and some of mine. And so I while you can find partners in every different aspect of your life, I think being able to go to a meetup where it's a little easier to actually be in that space where everyone else is also in real estate or interested in it has been easy for me. So yeah, that's why we continue to host events out here for Invest Capital. So if you haven't been to one yet in the audience, please come out. We'll be happy to see you there.
Yeah, our next one is Saturday. And as you talk about events and things like that, Ash, actually, can you break down when you reached out to Tony on Bigger Pockets? What was it about him that said, hey, I would continue to have more conversations, versus a lot of times you meet someone, you're like, I don't know if I would have another conversation. And that's just life.
Yeah. So that was actually, I'm thinking back now, and I think Tony had reached out to me to kind of see what I was working on in real estate. And so uh, we found out that we were kind of in the same vicinity of each other. So we ended up meeting for coffee. And so I think the casual approach that he had, it was not salesy at all. It was like, hey, let's talk more because we both like talking about real estate type of thing. And so I like that aspect of it. And then as I got to talk with him more, um, he kind of shared with me what he was working on. And so, like, just being transparent and open about what he was working on showed me his workflow, right? Like how he operated and what his thought process was like. And I just came at it with a very curious attitude and just wanted to learn. And he was very open to sharing. So his I think his ability and willingness to share with a complete stranger, I think I really like that. And again, like he was not salesy at all. He didn't ask for anything. He just said, "This is what I'm working on," and that was about it. So,
Well, I'm glad that he had an easy approach. Jason, I'm going to throw the same question to you right now, actually, is because you also were with another GP group for another fund that you ran. What made you trust them?
Yeah, so oddly enough, I met my other partners through a meetup as well. So I saw that they were working on similar things as me, but they didn't necessarily have the same experience or same skills that I do. And also, I was lacking on some skills that I needed to actually grow my portfolio. So we got to talking during that conference and found out that we had the same goals. So we pretty much, followed each other's journey. I kind of like vetted them by asking other vendors as well in my market to see what their experience is like because because I'm going to be partners with with these people for at least 3 to 5 years, right? And I want to make sure that I will have a good experience because if I have a good experience, then my LPs will have a good experience as well. So that's kind of like how I vetted them. Also, like these events are good if you are trying to figure out, who the good GPs are, and also to find other LPs if you're going to be a GP because um, the people that attend these events are made the effort to go to that event. So that means that they're actually very serious. The GPs are very serious about, you know, attending these events because they know that they can raise money. And then the LPs are there because they want to know who the good syndicators are. So pretty much I got a lot of intel from talking to other LPs, what their experience is like of other GPs as well. So there are a lot of local and also like national type of conferences that you can attend. So there would be good ways to kind of like vet and find who the good GPs are.
I love it. Yeah, I mean I'm going back into kind of like that dating analogy is if you can't have dinner with the person that you're going to either buy a house with or let alone an apartment with, it's probably not a good sign. So have a few dinners before you get married for sure. I don't know, there's so many different things and so many different nuances when it comes to finding GPs. Hopefully these tips help kind of demystify the process. Any last tips that you all want to share before we break today? And I'll go with one since of what you guys think. If not, just give me a thumbs up. Um, but I'm gonna second going back into events, especially if there's some type of barrier of entry. You want them to have just a little bit of skin in the game. So, yeah, some of these conferences are expensive, and in that case, it's big skin in the game just to even get into that room. But once you're in that room, you know that they're serious. You know that they have put a significant amount of money to go ahead and start or are doing the certain action that you also want to be aligned with. So that's probably the best place to start. And then of course too, if you want to go to any of our local events or anyone else in your area, if you're not here in California, whether it be in the Bay Area or in SoCal, just go out and meet more people who are doing the thing or maybe claiming to do the thing, and then find it for yourself. Uh, Jason and Vinci are actually based in SoCal. Do you guys have another event coming up next, or what's going on in your guys' neck of the woods?
Yes, we
Yeah.
do have one planned every month. The date and the time and the place is still to be determined for next month. But if you go to our website, investcapital.com, and sign up for our newsletter, we usually give out the the list of events that we're hosting.
Yeah. And then for us, Ash and I are hosting an event here in San Jose. And it's going to be a wine and real estate workshop. So there's 3 parts to this. The first part, I mean, arguably, I think is going to be my favorite part. But we are doing a blind tasting between sparkling wine and champagne. And yes, there is a difference. If you want to know, I guess you have to find out. But that's going to be part 1. Part 2 is going to be a panel all about real estate investing. And so if you're looking to buy out-of-state rental properties, flip houses, or tax strategies, that's going to be panel 1. And then panel 2 is actually, I think, my second favorite part, aside from the wine tasting, which is going to be the marketing side. And so I'll be speaking on that panel alongside 2 other awesome speakers, all about if you want to start your own mastermind and charge for it. Like, what does that actually take? Because I know that's kind of in the back of the minds of a lot of people in our network, as well as if you want to grow a Facebook group. And Sarah has been a phenomenal resource for us, or just about personal branding in general. So we're super excited. There are still a couple tickets left. Investcapital.com. I linked it down there. I'll also just put on, just because this slide is a little prettier, I think.
Any mastermind with wine, I'm down for.
Well, good. I guess you're gonna make the drive up, Vinci. So see you on Saturday, man.
See ya there, everyone.
And for everyone who's watching us live or on the post play, thank you all so much. If you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe wherever you are tuning in on. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube, we're starting this new YouTube channel on Invest Capital, so make sure to click that too. And thanks so much, all. We will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.